integrating and involving knowledge that's distributed at an ultra-large scale. To begin today, I'd like to invite candidate X in for a talk. Candidate X could be a candidate for a political office, where we're all going to hire him as a large group, like this guy on the screen, or he could be a candidate for a CEO of a nonprofit or a company, where we're going to hire him as a small group, the board of directors. Either way, from each candidate we see, including X, we're going to hear a number of campaign promises, great things that we can expect him or her to do if selected for the job. And all this sounds great. Here's somebody who can finally come in and solve the main social problems of the day. Here's somebody who can fix the environment, save our healthcare system, oversee the greatest society-changing innovation since electricity. Here's somebody who can form a community around our nonprofit's goals and aims. Somebody who can position our company's product as a peaceful, profitable, and positive source of good in the world. Nobody else could do it before, but candidate X seems to have a plausible plan and the resources and experience to just want to make it happen. He's confident. He's excited. He might be one of you someday. Why not, he asks, and we can't come up with a good answer. So we hire candidate X and send him to work. Then we get here. Candidate X is now a policymaker in a large organization responsible for making decisions that will have effects extending far beyond his or her personal reach and life experience. And he'll have to make these decisions in areas that he knows very little about. In fact, as a politician, CEO, or even as a leader of a nonprofit, the hero of our story will be called on to make decisions in such a broad range of areas that he couldn't possibly have expertise in more than a tiny fraction of them. He'll confront many adversaries and many points of view that he simply didn't think about during the campaign, along with an unanticipated set of hard facts about the realities of the situation. And he won't be able to accomplish what he set out to do. So, as is the theme of our event today, why not? Well, the reason why not is that these problems are incredibly complex. It's hard to tell exactly where the system boundaries start and end, what all the options and problem-solving strategies are, or what and who all will be affected by each of those options, and how. Especially when the impact of your actions today won't happen for many years down the road, it's hard to know if or when you solve the problem. Each of these issues that I'm talking about are essentially perplexing and unique in their own ways. The kinds of complex issues I'm talking about today, we might even say are wicked problems, in the sense that Udall and Weber meant when they first wrote about these in 1973. But remember, we were a large group of people who hired candidate X to be our leader, our decision maker. We, as a large distributed number, know some things about the different problems that we wanted to solve. Together, the people in this crowd can probably come up with quite a list of possible solutions for each of the problems we want leader X to solve, and evaluate most or all of the consequences of each. No one person has complete knowledge about any of these wicked problems. They're too complex for that by definition. But people know something useful, and they want to share it. Incidentally, people are also spending more time online and using collaborative tools. They don't want to be just passive consumers anymore. They want to be actively engaged and actively involved in the world around them. This is especially true for our generation and the next. As of the last survey a few years back, 93% of U.S. 12 to 17-year-olds were online, and over half of them were creating content. 64% as of way back in 2005, and it's only gone up since then. The same could be said for older folks, the adults. In 2008, we in the U.S. had more people who reported that their primary source of income was from blogging than we had computer programmers, CEOs, or firefighters. People know things, they want to share them, and they're used to using online collaborative tools to do it. But what does it take to do something big? These problems facing leader X are huge, remember? Healthcare, the environment, maybe even just running a business or a nonprofit. They're amazingly complex and have so many different dimensions and affected parties. So let's look at an example. Wikipedia. Wikipedia is the world's most comprehensive encyclopedia with millions of articles in hundreds of languages running on an impressive and complex piece of open source software called MediaWiki. In 2008, author Clay Shirky and Martin Wattenberg of IBM sat down to figure out roughly how much human time and energy had gone into Wikipedia. All the software, all the articles, all the edits, all the languages, all the history, and came up with roughly 100 million hours of human thought contributed by people from all around the world. Building a comprehensive reference for such a broad range of topics must be at least as difficult as building a comprehensive reference for one topic or problem. So we might take that 100 million hours as a rough up or down. Well, how much is 100 million hours? It's a lot. It's over 11,000 years for one person. But to put it in perspective, 100 million hours is the amount of time that we, as Americans, spend watching just the ads on TV every weekend. And people are looking to get more actively involved in the world around them, rather than passively consume. If they turn over just 1% of that passive consumption to active engagement, as they're looking to do, that's a sea change in what we could accomplish. So what if you could tap just a tiny piece of that cognitive surface? As a bit of a side note, this question should always accompany why not theme today. It's a great cycle. You ask why not, you come up with a reason why not. Then you ask what if, how can we get over this and move on? We're a country that's built on thinkers like this. And unfortunately, we're also a country that's built itself into some wicked challenges that no one person can solve alone. This is what candidate Obama said. The challenges we face today, from saving our planet to ending poverty, are simply too big for government to solve alone. We need all hands on deck. End quote. We cannot solve our nation's challenges until we learn how to tap our nation's knowledge. Businesses also have a pressing need to tap the distributed knowledge of their own employees. HP's CEO, Lou Platt, once famously noted that if only HP knew what HP knows, we would be 3 times more productive. Can we tap distributed knowledge to help inform policy decisions? Let's look at the Patent Office, for example. A USPTO examiner generally has a bachelor's degree and a patent application in front of them, which represents the most detailed, cutting-edge research and development in some highly specific technical niche that is somehow related to their field. It's written in detailed, precise technical language, convoluted into what the Supreme Court calls one of the most difficult legal languages to use. The examiner has to decipher the lingo, figure out what the patent means, find anything that could possibly be related to prior inventions, decide if the new invention is novel and unobvious over the prior work, and make a legal decision about patentability that can affect the future of a firm and sometimes even an industry. He has 15 hours to do this, and thank you, Google. So, is it possible to tap the knowledge distributed in the technical community to help the examiner make a more informed technical decision or patentability decision about what's out there and how it might relate? Yes, says Beth Novak and her team at Cure to Patent, which is a pilot program to do exactly that. This is one of the positive examples that we can draw on. Eric Schmidt, then the CEO of Google, looked at this project and he said, why is that not true of every branch of government? It makes perfect sense to use all of those people who care so passionately, who have so much free time, to help you. Indeed, Eric Schmidt, why not? Well, the reason why not is that we don't quite have good technology for it yet. Some of our best technology for online discussion these days is forums, email lists, and web groups. Let's pick one for a minute and imagine this bullseye, with the center of the bullseye being the main topic that the original poster raised. As you go through the course of the discussion, you might imagine that it starts out right near the center of this bullseye on top. But from there, it's sort of a random walk. Sometimes getting off topic, sometimes coming back on, sometimes retracing over things that have already been said many times. occasionally falling into a flame war, which sucks people's attention as an attractor very far from the central topic. But what if we took advantage of some of the best practices from the participatory web and built something better? First, creative problem solving 101. When you have a particular problem, the first thing you do is you start by generating a whole bunch of ideas, organizing them into some useful fashion, and then selecting from those ideas a few that you might be able to implement to hopefully solve the problem. Aside from knowing the fact that the particularly wicked and complex problems that I'm talking about today can't be solved in a purely linear fashion like this, what if we use wiki-style editing to collect many diverse contributions and iterative improvements, organize these contributions to reduce duplication and show the links between concepts, and then use the rating system to tap many diverse perspectives to find the highest quality issues and content? We can leave decision-making authority with the processes that are currently in place to ensure fair representation, among other objectives. But might this help inform the debate about our options and their consequences as we face complex policy issues? I'll take a moment to explain a few of these design principles and why they seem likely to work. The first step in creative problem solving, remember, is to generate a whole bunch of ideas and knowledge. This graph shows a typical distribution of contributions to any particular project. On the y-axis is the value or level of the contribution, and the x-axis represents the number of contributions at that level. The red line represents the transaction costs, or the barriers to making a contribution. Anything that's below this line and the cost of making a contribution exceed the value that can be gained from that contribution being made. So these contributions aren't worth it, and they aren't made. But thanks to the internet and collaboration technologies built on it, transaction costs and barriers to participation have fallen, in some domains, very close to zero. As transaction costs fall, these contributions that previously weren't worth it can now be tapped and aggregated to produce something very valuable. A large number of small contributions adds up to a lot. Keeping entry barriers low also allows us to take advantage of Linus's law, which is that many eyes make all bows shallow. When you have a lot of people looking at a problem, even complex issues can be broken down into a large number of relatively simple parts or perspectives that are aggregated together to form a coherent whole, if you do it right. We can also use our running example of Wikipedia as an example to illustrate the value of low entry barriers. Wiki is a Hawaiian word meaning quick. Wikipedia was originally a behind-the-scenes tool to allow editors to collaborate on first drafts of articles for an edited volume called Newspedia. At least in part because it was quick and easy to contribute to and improve on, Wikipedia took off, and the dream behind Newspedia died into something much bigger. So the lesson here for Udall is to keep or make entry barriers low in order to take advantage of a very large number of small contributions. So, second, how do you organize this information to be useful? We have the temporal model where contributions are organized according to the time that they were added. For the types of complex issues that we're talking about here and the number of people that we're talking about solving, this just does not work. We talked a little bit about why earlier. Instead, let's organize the content topically rather than temporally and show the links between concepts. Then you can significantly reduce duplication, keep the focus of the efforts more on topic, and particularly with the help of some machine learning algorithms for clustering and directions, help people find the content in the areas where they have opportunities to contribute that are of greatest interest to them. Also, on the topic of organization, use visualizations wherever possible. Effective visualizations can help people make intuitive sense of complex information. Visualizations also increase the rate of voluntarism, and the right design can help strengthen a group's sense of purpose and direction. visualizations can also help people easily identify the information they're looking for, and sometimes more importantly, easily identify where the gaps in the knowledge are so that they can go fill them. Finally, for organizations, don't be afraid of integrating other people's tools and visualizations in your own system or discussion. Data.gov exposed a whole bunch of government data a while back, and some interesting apps and visualization tools have come out of it to help us make sense of even live, large data sets. Organize content topically rather than temporally, and use visualizations where possible. Finally, rating. Let's say we've got a whole bunch of contributions. Even if they're well organized, we can't have just one or two people trying to go through the whole pile to separate the most useful parts from the chaff. It just doesn't scale well, even though that's currently the approach used in notice and comment rulemaking, used by the federal government. Instead, let's have the community do it. Most online communities typically follow this pattern of participation, which is known as the 1-10-80-90. About 1% of users in an online community will be creating content. About 10% will be rating others' content or making similarly smaller valued contributions, and the rest will simply be reading. For example, on YouTube, about 1% of users are uploading videos, about 10% will be rating videos, and the others are just watching clips. You might notice a similar pattern of participation in your own life, that even if you are active in a few online communities, it's probably a tiny fraction of those that you read or benefit from. So this is a typical pattern of participation, and we shouldn't think it's a bad thing if we see it. Instead, we can use it, we can leverage it to learn how to involve more people in a useful way and help us distinguish the best content and the spam from the rest. I should also note that it's easier said than done to design a rating system that is both useful and which produces ratings that correlate with community perceived quality. When you put all of this together and have it all happening at the same time, you get something very interesting, very useful. As Wikipedia is a collection of articles about what is, this is a collection of discussions about what could or should be. In terms of its capacity to inform the debate and help solve complex policy problems, it's also a potentially very powerful form of involvement. And that's what I'm working on. I want to find what specific design principles work to constructively tap the knowledge embedded in large, distributed groups of people to inform the debate and find good solutions to complex questions where the effects of a decision will extend far beyond the decision makers themselves. If we can effectively connect knowledge needs with resources and build the tools to collaborate effectively across boundaries and on a massive scale, I believe we can turn why-nots into what-ifs and solve some wicked problems. My name is Towne. Thank you very much.